Welcome back to the Ripewave Audio community. My name is John, and now it's time for Ripewave Audio News. In this episode, we will take a look at what's coming soon to this community. We will discuss the shipping delays that have impacted the industry. We will explore Apple TV 4K, which will be shipping this month. And then we will get an update on HDMI 2.1 and what processor and receiver manufacturers are doing to address the slow release of this technology and fixes to the early models. We will also explore what Polk is doing with their ceiling speakers. And finally, we'll give you an update of what we plan to do to optimize our recently acquired Rhythmic Audio F18 subwoofer pair. But first, our top story. After a year of effort and nearly 100,000 views of the 60 videos that we have posted, the Ripewave Audio channel has recently surpassed the 1,000 subscriber mark. And this is really meaningful to me, and it really makes me feel good that you're finding value in the content that's being created here. And it's been your thoughtful comments that have been left to create an active discussion on these topics. And I value your opinion, which can differ from my own, but the dialogue has been very respectful, even when opinions have differed. And it's that dialogue that really will propel this channel forward. So thank you very much. And those thoughtful comments are really leading me to come up with more ideas on how we can provide content to you and work together to really understand this audio industry. And now for our next story. You've noticed that many products in the audio market have experienced delays. You go onto websites and they're showing that the product is out of stock and that there's delays and it's not expected for another month or two. Now, part of this is due in part by the shipping container delays. So when products are shipped internationally, they do have to wait to be scheduled to be put onto ships to be delivered to their respective ports. Now, this can affect finished goods, but it also can affect components that make up the finished goods. So even if a product is, let's say, assembled in the United States, a lot of those components are being developed first in Asia, shipped over to the United States for that assembly. So these shipping delays can really impact the availability of products. The other issue that impacted product availability was the factory fire of AKM. And they're a major manufacturer of the A to D chips that go into these processors and receivers. So that shortage really did have a big impact on product availability and has created delays of months impacting the products. As Ripewave Audio went to acquire ceiling speakers to prepare for immersive audio, we noticed that a lot of the ceiling speaker models started to disappear from the Polk Audio website, getting down at one point to one model. Now, we were able to acquire the 900 LS flagship model on what we thought was a closeout deal, and it was a significantly reduced price. But it's interesting, over the last few months, we've seen products return to the Polk Audio website as ceiling speakers, and then most recently, the 900 LS and 700 LS models were also returned to the Polk Audio website, and we're showing availability at various retailers for those products. So we're not sure what happened there. Was it because of shipping delays, or were they just brought back for popular demand, or a gap that they needed to fill without new models being ready? So we wait to get some more clarity on that, but we're glad to see those models are available again. The next product that Ripewave Audio is going to acquire is the Hagerman Audio Labs Bugle 3 Phono Preamp. We're sourcing this product for two reasons. One, with the new rack setup, the phonograph is too far away for the cables to reach without causing an impact to the signal quality. So by having an external preamp, we can boost that signal so it can travel the remaining distance. Now, a friend of mine has the Bugle 3 and has compared it to Parasound's JC3 devices and preferred the Bugle 3 at a much lower price point of $189. So we're excited to try this out. The second reason why we want to get the external preamp is to support moving coil cartridges. We have one moving coil cartridge in our possession that we really haven't been able to use because the internal preamp of the Sony TAE 9000 ES processor does not support moving coil, only moving magnet cartridges. Ripewave Audio ordered the Apple TV 4K at the end of April on the first day of ordering. We expect delivery by mid-May. Now, this new version of the Apple TV is supported by the A12 Bionic chip and has support for HDMI 2.1, albeit frame rates right now are only up to 60 frames per second. But it should be capable of supporting higher rates with a firmware update. There is a new remote, which is said to be better than the previous model. There is also a color balance app for the iPhone, and there is the ability to connect up to 2 AirPod sets. We look forward to this. Now, it does come at a premium price of anywhere between $179 for the 32 gigabyte model and $199 for the 64 gigabyte model. This does support Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos. In comparing the Apple TV 4K with other premium streaming devices, we can see that it tops the price scale, albeit the NVIDIA Shield Pro is still around $200 and is only a 16 gigabyte model and does not support HDMI 2.1. What does support HDMI 2.1 is the Chromecast with Google TV. That has 8 gigabytes and sells for $50. It is interesting to note that all these models, whether it is Apple, NVIDIA, Roku, Chromecast, or Amazon, support Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos with 4K 2160p 60 frames per second. So you're really not gaining any real feature set from that perspective. But what we believe the Apple TV 4K is delivering is a better user experience. Now, of course, we won't really know until we try this out, and we really haven't had a new Apple TV since the first generation. We've been living with Fire TV models. So this will be an interesting test to see if this new model is worth the premium price. In November, Ripewave Audio reported on the HDMI 2.1 issue, and we advised everybody not to worry, that companies like Denon Sound United will address this problem. And recently they have. They're issuing a free fix for all owners of impacted Denon and Marantz products that were sold as 8K processor receivers. And what this fix is they give you a HDMI adapter that takes one input and outputs one 8K signal that can be consumed by the AV receiver. So this is a free upgrade. It will be made available to those who have already bought these units. But it does beg a question about the future of HDMI 2.1 and processors. As you can remember, we had our 2 series. We had processors under $5,000 and processors between $5,000 and $10,000. And many of these products are noted to say that there's going to be a hardware upgrade coming, that there's going to be a software upgrade, that the hardware already supports it. So those models that say that, yes, you have the promise that that's coming. But in a lot of cases, there will only be one port that supports the 8K. And ideally, you want to be able to support 8K through all the channels. We also have reports from Onkyo and Pioneer. I think they put out an announcement in January that their 2021 models will support 8K. So it'll be interesting to see how they're approaching this. But what Ripewave Audio would like to see is 8K on all the outputs. We will wait and see. But our feeling is that something is happening. You know, there's been enough time now out in the market with HDMI 2.1. Televisions now support it. We now have some gaming consoles. So there can be some understanding of how to implement the standard. There was some ambiguities about how to address the standard, and I think they're figuring it out. I'm going to be optimistic in this case, and we're going to see more and more HDMI 2.1 compatible products. Now, I'm not sure if we'll get to see any models that support more than one output, but I think things are coming. I think you'll start to see those promised hardware upgrades and new processor receiver models that go further with their HDMI 2.1 8K support. Let's hope for the best. In a recent Emotiva podcast, they're hinting of new products. First, they are saying that there's a new firmware coming for their processors, albeit this is, well, they say it's a significant update. This mainly looks at Dolby and DTS enhancements, and they're paying particular attention to ARC compatibility fixes. Now, this is ARC and not eARC, and they say this is just days away. They also hinted that there are many other new products coming throughout the year. And one thing they said was one of those products requires a lot of power to drive it. I'm not sure what this is. It alludes that there's some sort of speaker or subwoofer. So that will be interesting to see what they're coming out with there. Now, they've already released a whole new series of amplifiers at a budget cost, which is their basic series. And they have their A2, which is a 2-channel model, through an A7, which is a 7-channel model of this series. Now, we do have our own wish list for what we would like to see Emotiva announce. We'd like to see them add DTS:X Pro support, but we're not sure if that requires a hardware update for the existing processors. Now, one thing we do know is to support HDMI 2.1, those processors, the RMC1, the 1L, and the XMC2, all require a new HDMI board to support HDMI 2.1. And we've yet to see any expansion modules for the RMC1, and I know the community of people who own those products are anxious to see expansion modules to justify the $1,000 premium they paid for that model. And finally, what we're going to be doing next is working with the optimization of our Rhythmic subwoofers. And we're going about this 3 ways. First, we're going to do this real manual and use REW and a UMIC-1 microphone. And we'll try to see how far we can get with just that setup. Then we'll try to go and add the mini DSP. And we bought a DDRC24, which also has the license for Dirac Live. But first we're going to do it without Dirac Live, and then we're going to add in Dirac Live. And so for each one of these optimizations, the manual, using mini DSP, and then using it with Dirac Live, we're going to see if each progression actually makes improvements and how much improvement it makes to the responses. So this will be a real interesting exercise. So once again, I want to thank you for your continued tuning in to the Ripewave Audio community and commenting and subscribing and liking to this channel. And I hope to see you real soon. And until then, keep evolving your audio experience.